The anxiety is not the enemy. Welcome to Quantum Wealth Lab. Financial anxiety is the most commonly misunderstood signal in the emotional vocabulary of anyone who is working to build a different economic reality. It is treated as evidence that something is wrong, either with the situation or with the person experiencing it. Too sensitive, not confident enough, not cut out for the high-stakes financial decisions that the life they are trying to build requires. None of that is accurate. Financial anxiety, examined without judgment, is not evidence of inadequacy. It is evidence of investment. It is what happens when someone who cares deeply about getting their financial life right encounters uncertainty, and the caring, having nowhere constructive to go in the moment, generates the physical experience of anxiety instead. The caring is real. The investment is real. The desire to build something substantial and solid and genuinely secure is real. The anxiety is simply what happens when that real energy hits the wall of not knowing yet, of being in the middle of the building, where the outcome is not yet confirmed and the stakes feel genuinely high. The problem is not the anxiety. The problem is the routing. When financial anxiety roots through the nervous system as paralysis, as the inability to make decisions, to take the next step, to act from a place of authority rather than from the defensive crouch of someone bracing for the worst, it becomes a disabling experience. The caring becomes the obstacle. This session reroutes the caring into authority, into decisive, grounded, informed action from a nervous system that has learned to use the anxiety signal constructively rather than be governed by it. You are someone who moves through financial uncertainty with authority. Not someone who never feels the uncertainty, someone who feels it fully and moves through it anyway. The distinction matters. The goal of this session is not the elimination of financial anxiety. It is the transformation of what the anxiety produces, from paralysis to motion, from the defensive crouch to the decisive step, from the signal that stops you to the signal that focuses you. Authority over financial anxiety is not the absence of the feeling. It is the ability to receive the feeling as information rather than directive. The anxiety says, "This matters, pay attention, something here needs careful navigation." That is accurate information. The authority is in responding to the accurate information with deliberate, intelligent action, rather than allowing the feeling itself to become the outcome. People who appear fearless in financial decisions are not the ones without anxiety. They are the ones who have developed the habit of using the anxiety as signal rather than letting it become the story. They feel the urgency and use it to sharpen the decision rather than to avoid it. They feel the weight of the stakes and let it increase their intentionality rather than their paralysis. You are building that habit. In this session, in this practice, in the consistent returning to the authority response when the anxiety signal fires, the habit develops. I move through financial uncertainty with authority. The anxiety is the fuel. I am the driver. Feel what financial life looks like when anxiety becomes the signal rather than the story. In this version, the financial decision that would previously have triggered the anxious spiral, the investment of real money, the pricing conversation, the commitment to a significant financial direction, is still weighted. It still carries the felt sense of stakes, of genuine consequence, of something that matters enough to warrant careful attention. But the feeling does not become the outcome. Instead, it sharpens the attention. The anxiety signal, "This matters, navigate carefully," roots directly into the quality of the consideration. More thorough research, more honest assessment of risk, more complete evaluation of the options before the decision is made. The caring energy goes into the decision rather than into the avoidance of it. And then the decision is made. Not from certainty. Certainty is not available in financial decisions. From authority. From the grounded confidence of someone who has done the careful consideration, weighted the options honestly, and is making the best available choice with the information and resources currently in hand. In this version, Financial uncertainty does not mean financial paralysis. It means financial attention, the particular quality of engaged, careful, curious attention that the anxiety was always trying to produce, finally routing constructively into the decisions that the caring energy was always trying to protect. Feel that version. Uncertainty as the condition for careful action, not the justification for no action. The 3-breath authority reset. Here is the practice for converting the anxiety signal to authority in real time. In the middle of the financial conversation, before the significant decision, in the moment when the nervous system is firing its uncertainty signal, and the default response is the defensive crouch. 3 breaths deliberately slow. Long inhale through the nose, 4 counts. Hold 2 counts. Long exhale through the mouth, 6 counts. Repeat 3 times. In the exhale, a specific instruction to the nervous system. I receive this anxiety as the signal that this matters and I am paying full attention. I do not need to be protected from the uncertainty. I need to move through it with the best decision available to me right now. The physiology of the 3-breath reset is real and documented. The extended exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting the stress response from sympathetic arousal to calm alertness. The body does not know you chose to breathe slowly. It only knows that the breath slowed and responds accordingly. What was the anxiety state becomes alert presence. Alert presence is the authority state. It is the state from which financial decisions are made with full intelligence rather than the reduced bandwidth of the anxious mind, which is running the threat detection process at the expense of the decision-making process. 3 breaths. Every time the anxiety signal fires, the authority state is available on the other side of each one. For the anxiety that has always been caring. Financial anxiety is not a malfunction of the nervous system. In its original design, it is a protection mechanism, an early warning signal that fires when something that matters to your survival or your well-being is at stake. In the context of financial life, it fires when real money, real opportunity, or real security is in question. The signal is saying, do not be careless here. This matters to your actual life. The caring behind that signal deserves acknowledgement. It is not irrational. It is not a weakness. It is the evidence of how seriously you take the work of building something genuinely secure, something that will provide for you and for the people whose well-being is connected to yours in ways that feel genuinely important. The anxiety that has shown up before big financial decisions was the part of you that refused to be cavalier about your economic life. That refused to treat money as unimportant or financial choices as inconsequential. That insisted on paying attention because the stakes were genuinely real. Thank it for the caring, for the years of insisting that the financial decisions matter, for the particular seriousness and attention it brought to the work of building a life, even when the attention rooted through anxiety rather than authority. The caring was always appropriate. The routing is what is changing. The anxiety is becoming the authority, and the authority carries all the same care, now able to act on it. You are worthy of the authority state. The authority state is not reserved for people who have never been anxious about money. It is not a reward for having moved past financial difficulty. It is not something you earn by demonstrating sufficient calm in the face of sufficient stakes. It is the state that becomes available when you decide to route the anxiety signal constructively. And you can make that decision right now, in this session, regardless of the current state of your financial life or nervous system. The anxious person and the authority person are not different people. They are the same person, routing the same caring energy through different neural pathways. The caring is identical. The investment in getting the financial life right is identical. The worthiness of the authority state is not contingent on whether the anxiety has been conquered. It is contingent on whether the caring has been redirected. You are worthy of operating from authority in your financial life. Not because the anxiety is gone, because you have learned or are learning to use it. Because the signal that fires when financial stakes are high now routes to alertness and action rather than to paralysis and avoidance. Because the caring that the anxiety was always encoding now goes directly into the quality of the decisions it was always trying to protect. The authority is not borrowed from a calmer version of you. It is built from the same material the anxiety was made of. You have always had the material. The routing is the practice. Step into the version of you who uses the anxiety as fuel. Not the version who never feels it, the version who has practiced the conversion long enough that the gap between the anxiety signal and the authority response is very small. A breath or two. A moment of recognition. This is the caring. This is the investment. And then the routing into attention, into the quality of consideration, into the decisive action that the caring energy was always trying to produce. In this version, the significant financial decision is met differently. The weight is still there. The version of you who has completed this work does not find financial decisions weightless. The stakes are real, and the nervous system registers them. But the registration roots forward rather than backward, into the careful work of making the best decision available, rather than into the anxious spiral of postponing the decision until the anxiety somehow resolves on its own. In this version, the 3-breath reset is automatic. The authority state is the practiced response to the anxiety signal, developed to the point where the gap between the signal and the practiced response is smaller than the gap between the signal and the old paralysis response used to be. You are already this version. The practice has been installed. The routing has begun. Every time the anxiety fires and the 3 breaths follow and the authority state emerges, that is the flip, happening in real time, becoming more reliable with each repetition. Feel it becoming reliable. It already is. Integrate the flip into your financial nervous system. The anxiety-to-authority flip is a neural practice, which means it develops through repetition and degrades without it. The 3-breath reset works every time it is used, but it has to be used. The default will reassert, the anxiety will route through the old pathway, and the authority state will need to be deliberately chosen. The integration is the consistent choice. Every time the financial anxiety signal fires, before the significant decision, in the middle of the uncertain period, in the moments when the account balance and the life being built feel genuinely far apart, the 3 breaths. Not as a technique to perform, but as a genuine return to the caring that can act state from the caring that is frozen state. Over time, the neural pathway of the 3-breath reset becomes more well-worn than the neural pathway of the anxious spiral. The return to authority becomes faster. The default begins to shift from paralysis to alertness. The caring energy, so long rooted into anxiety, begins to root more automatically into action. This is not a process that happens in a session. It happens over weeks and months of consistent practice. One 3-breath reset at a time, one financial decision made from authority rather than from the defensive crouch. One instance of the anxiety signal being received as information rather than allowed to become the story. The flip is happening. The practice is the proof. Until next time, keep expanding. Your practice this week. Use the 3-breath authority, reset every time financial anxiety fires. Not just in the significant moments, in all the moments. The background anxiety in the middle of the week, the spike before the difficult conversation, the quiet dread that appears when the account is checked. Each one is an opportunity to practice the flip. 3 breaths. Long inhale, brief hold, extended exhale. The instruction on the exhale, this is the caring. I root it into authority. I make the best decision available from this state. And then note what changes. In the quality of the decisions made from the authority state versus the ones that were made from the anxious state. In the outcomes of the financial interactions that happen after the 3-breath reset versus the ones that happen when the anxiety roots uninterrupted through the old paralysis pathway. When you catch the flip happening, when you feel the anxiety converting to authority in real time, come back to the comments. The community question this week is, what financial decision have you been postponing because of anxiety? And what happened when you used the 3-breath reset and made the decision from authority instead? Your flip may be the evidence someone else needs to practice theirs. Subscribe. Share this with someone who has been mistaking their caring for a weakness. Until next time, keep expanding.